You know, life is actually very simple because it's a one-move win. Imagine no matter what scenario you're in, you only had to do one thing. Imagine boxing, and no matter what attack he threw at you, no matter how big and strong he was, no matter how tired you were, you didn't have to do any fancy combination. You didn't have to do any kind of clever footwork. You only had to do one move, and you instantly and endlessly, 100% of the time, won. And life is the same. And that thing is get rich. You know, whenever I see an argument online about anything, my instant response is, thank God I'm rich. And if I am emotionally vested in that argument, if I am looking at that argument and believe the outcome genuinely matters and can affect my life, I'm only more motivated to get rich. If I look at an argument and say, I really care about this, time to get rich. Why? Well, there's two reasons. Reason one is that wealth gives you power and allows you to move the needle. Because most of you are not rich enough to move the needle in any significant way. And two, wealth also gives you ability to build your own reality. If you decided you wanted to live life amongst people with yellow hair only, or blue hair only, you have two choices. You can rage post on Twitter and try and inspire a politician to pass a law that only allows blue-haired people to live around you, even though it would not be in his own personal interest, which is basically impossible. Or you can get rich enough to just only exist and only be around blue-haired people. Which of those two things is a more clever use of your time and energy? Because this is the work trap we find ourselves falling into ever since Trump's victory. You believe Trump is coming to save you. You believe that the government is going to save you. You believe everything's going to be okay. You believe that rage posting on Twitter is somehow work and you're somehow affecting things, when truthfully, you are wasting your time. Focusing all that energy on getting as rich as possible is more likely to change your experience than rage posting. And you know this, but what you're trying to do is satisfy the part of your soul which is telling you you have to work and you have to resist enslavement. The easiest place to see this is with Bitcoin. Everyone loves Bitcoin. Everybody believes in Bitcoin. Federal Reserve, they print too much money. Bitcoin's going to the moon. I get it. But why are you watching videos about Bitcoin and researching Bitcoin instead of earning money to buy more Bitcoin? It's binary. You either believe in Bitcoin or you don't. And if you do believe in Bitcoin, the most prudent and intelligent spend of your time is to work as hard as possible to acquire as much as possible before the price becomes prohibitive. To sit there with 0.3 Bitcoin, to believe that Bitcoin's going to go up, and then to watch Bitcoin videos and watch Hopium and research how the blockchain works with no intention of actually programming the blockchain in any way is a mistake. And it is a trick and a trap you are falling for, because you believe by doing that, you are somehow working towards the end goal. And you're not. You're attracted to Bitcoin because you can buy and forget. The reason Bitcoin's so attractive to people isn't because of the Federal Reserve. Nobody gives a shit about the Fed and inflation if they were rich. You wouldn't be upset by the Fed, inflation, interest rates, fiat currency. None of those things would bother you at all if you were as rich as me. I don't give a shit because I'm rich. You give a shit because you're not. So you're sitting there researching Bitcoin and you think that you're interested in Bitcoin because you are furious at the Federal Reserve. That's all bullshit. You love Bitcoin because it's offering you the lazy man's dream. Buy some of me and do nothing. It is the dream of every person alive to park some money, ignore it, and with no work have more money, because that's nearly impossible to do. If you want to start a rental property portfolio, you have to work. There's taxes, there's legal, there's cleaning, there's maintenance, there's finding tenants, there's work. Bitcoin is very lazy. So you buy it, you do nothing, and you're told you're going to be a millionaire one day. That satisfies part of your heart. That's a perfect scenario. But then you have this time on your hands. And you're sitting there thinking, well, Bitcoin's going to make me a millionaire, and I want it to happen now. So what do? What you start doing is reading about Bitcoin, tweeting about Bitcoin, posting about Bitcoin, watching all the hopium, looking up random YouTubers for their Bitcoin predictions, listening to Michael Saylor. All of these things you are doing because you are trying to expedite. You're trying to speed up the pace at which Bitcoin saves you from your miserable life. But it is a mistake, because doing all of that doesn't change anything. I know you could argue that the collective energy of enough people understanding Bitcoin and tweeting about it moves the needle. That is true. But if I were to say to you, spend the next 100 hours reading and watching Bitcoin videos, or the next 100 hours working, earning money, and buying Bitcoin, which one do you think would put you in a position where you could retire sooner? It would be from working and purchasing, but you're trying to avoid the work. This is so important, guys, that you find yourself in these political arguments, you find yourself watching Bitcoin videos, you find yourself locking in to do absolutely unproductive things, because the only thing that's productive in all scenarios is earning money. So when I see this argument on Twitter about H1B1, I sit there and think, thank God I'm rich. It's very easy to live in America and only see white people if you're rich. It's also very easy to live in America and only see black people if you're rich. You can do whatever you want if you're rich. If you're not, you're in a far more difficult position. And the great thing about this mindset is most people don't have it. It is important that people tweet about Bitcoin. It is important that people complain about certain things online and make it clear that they're unhappy with how their politicians plan to run the country. But if you bow down and you get rich, the rest will do it for you. It's fine. Let them do the heavy lifting. Let them sit there and rage post and get mad and lose sleep and watch videos and do all that crap while you stack cash. And I guarantee you, that's how you're going to win. And I only care how my fans win. So after I decided Bitcoin was a thing, I've never watched a video on it again. I've decided Bitcoin's going to the moon. That's my decision. I now have no interest in Bitcoin podcasts. I have no interest in Bitcoin predictions. I have no interest. I spend my time making money to buy Bitcoin or something else. Once Trump won, now everyone's sitting there asking Trump to fix their problems, their very specific problems. And the Rebel Alliance, the right, was a band of individualists which all had very different views and hopes. So they're not going to fix all your problems. Nobody is coming to save you. Nothing's going to be better in 2025. Get rid of this. Bitcoin's going to $1 trillion. My 0.1 Bitcoin is enough because I found a podcast that says that. I watch more and more podcasts that say 0.1 Bitcoin will be enough because I don't have more than 0.1 Bitcoin. And Trump and Elon are going to save me and everything's fine. Let me just rage post on Twitter and wait for Bitcoin to go up. That is a mistake. If those podcasts saying 0.1 Bitcoin is enough are accurate, if they are, which is debatable, because I don't think they are, then you should still be trying to earn more so you have 0.2 Bitcoin as opposed to watching those podcasts for hopium. I ask a lot of people what they're doing. They say, locking in, bro. And their version of locking in is just dumb shit. Watching podcasts for hope, rage posting on Twitter for hope. It is best for you to assume that you're fucked. It's best for you to assume that Trump and Elon are not going to do any of the things you want them to do, no matter how much you tweet at them. It is best for you to assume that Bitcoin is still going to be around the same price 10 years from now. It is best for you to assume that the prices will continue to spiral out of control. that the crime and the drugs will continue to spiral out of control. That is the best mental model for you to have. Because in that scenario, under that mental model, I can say to you, what the fuck are you going to do about it? And the only answer is work. Hope can destroy you. You're at the bottom of a well, and to save your manicure, you're praying someone's going to throw a rope down or a ladder because you don't want to scale the slimy walls and crawl out to salvation because of how difficult it's going to be. And you're sitting at the bottom thinking, a ladder's coming soon. I heard this rumor of this guy who has a ladder and he randomly puts it down wells. And maybe he'll choose my one. So if I just sit around and wait, that is the wrong mentality. It will soon be nightfall. You will freeze. It will begin to rain and you will drown. You don't have time. If the man with the ladder is coming, then you're good anyway. If Trump and Elon fix the country, you're good. If Bitcoin goes to 10 million and your 0.1 finally becomes worth something, you're good. If the ladder comes down the well when you're halfway up the wall, you're great. But you should begin to climb anyway. It is win-win. The only thing stopping you is the trap of believing you're doing something by praying for the ladder man and laziness. It is amazing how people were motivated under Kamala because they understood that an oppressive regime was out with the intention of enslaving the modern man. And then Trump won and they let their foot off the gas. They're like, it's okay now. They're not going to make us slaves anymore. Now Elon talks about visas. Why are people so mad at him? Why has there been such a visceral reaction? I'll tell you why. Because he's reminding all of you that this is a brutal dog-eat-dog world. And that those who can do the job the best for the lowest pay are the ones who will have the jobs. And nobody's coming to save you. Your hopium that you are enjoying, your dreams of Trump's back in charge, economy's going to be back, we'll all be rich, Bitcoin's going to... all that shit was shattered when he made it clear to you that an Indian will do your job for half the fucking money. And now you're pissed. Why am I not pissed? Well, because I have money. You can talk about the demographic change of the United States. A valid argument. Agreed. But what puts you in a better position? Sitting there with 400 followers tweeting into the void, or working as hard as possible to get as rich as possible? What puts you in a better position? Which is a better chess move? Because you only have one turn. You move the knight or you move the bishop. Which one are you going to choose? You can't move both. And if you want to win the game, although there may be merit to both, you have to choose the one which is most beneficial to your position as a whole. And that's the beautiful thing about life, because the answer is nearly always the fucking same. Get rich, ignore the noise. Buckle down, ignore the noise. Lock in, focus, do important shit, ignore the noise. And make sure you're doing things that actually matter. Because there's a huge work trap that's been set up. You're not working as hard as you think you are if you're watching podcasts which are giving you hope that you've already done enough work. That's what you're doing. You're hoping someone is going to say to you that you've already done enough and that 0.1 Bitcoin is fine and Trump is going to fix it all and it's all fine. Nothing is fine. You need to crawl out of that well with your fingernails. You need to scratch your face on hard stone. You need to get out of there like a man. Even if the ladder comes. After you climbed out of the well, you bought yourself time. Now you're ahead of the game. Yes, you could have waited and had an easier way out. But think of how much time you saved by crawling out before the ladder man got round to you. This is extremely important. It's extremely important. I'm not going to comment on the Elon drama. I'm not going to comment on it because it's very emotionally charged. And I understand why people are upset. However, I do think, and I will make this clear, it is insane how quickly people forget what Elon did for us. Whether you agree with him or not. How quickly people have turned their backs on him and forgotten what he did to break the censorship matrix. And this is the problem that we have now, because now you've attacked him so disrespectfully. He has no interest in your concerns. The people who are genuinely concerned about this issue have approached it so heinously that they have alienated one of the most powerful men on the planet. And they think they're winning. This is the brutal arrogance of people. You're ratioing Elon on his own platform. And you think you're winning? You think he's going to wake up and go, you've been nasty to me and insulted me for the last... I really care about your plight. It's dumb as fuck. At least have enough respect to try and make him understand your concerns. No. Instead, you just attacked him. So game theory would prove that if someone is the richest man in the world, ultra successful and powerful, and you piss that person off, then he's probably going to double down on his views that you don't like. Why wouldn't he? I don't think that highlighting this argument in the way it's been highlighted has done anything for the cause positive at all. Because people were not mature enough to handle it in a mature, respectful way. So now you've pissed off one of the most powerful people on the planet. Great. Irregardless of what side of the argument you're on, irregardless, the answer is the same, which is to make as much money as possible. Because once you make money, you can create your reality. You know, it's very interesting that people as a whole, it truly is interesting. People as a whole do not sit and analyze intention. You have to sit and think about why somebody would do the things they do, especially if you want them to do them. You need to think about this deeply, because then you might convince them to do what you want. Why would somebody have the exact same political views as you, or pass the laws you want them to pass, or make you rich? Why would they want to do that? How could you convince somebody to want to do that? And if you can't, what should you do? Or if you can, is it worth the time invested? I really think, have you ever seen something that just feels too good to be true? When people were saying, Bitcoin halving plus the ETF, it's going to 1 million. And I'm sitting there thinking, that's too easy. No way. And then the Bitcoin halving comes, and then the ETF comes, and the price doesn't even move. That's life. What should happen, what you're hoping for, it never comes true. I'm a Trump fan. Huge Trump fan. But if you think your life's going to be any different after his inauguration, you're an idiot. Because your life's not going to change. Maybe you can get some hopium or some copium on Twitter. But once again, that's falling into a trap. Let me give you an example. Most of you are so addicted to the trap that I've been describing that if you lived in the exact same city, doing the exact same things, seeing the exact same people, and there was a tweet that said that immigration had doubled, you'd be furious. And then if you were in the exact same city, seeing the exact same people, doing the exact same things, and there was a tweet that said immigration had halved, you'd be happy. But your reality hasn't changed. Your idea, your perception, your hopes, your dreams, your ideals, what you believe, sure. But your reality hasn't even changed. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to tweet all day pushing for the idea of a happy scenario that you'll never experience, or do you want to get rich and experience what you want to experience? Most of the reason you're so unhappy with these certain things is because you're poor anyway. There's not a single rich person who would say, I won't move to Dubai. Too many Arabs. Nobody cares then because everyone's loaded. It's a class war anyway. So I understand the concerns, but when people are inboxing me saying, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? I think you should get rich. That's what I think. I think you should double down and focus. I think that as a man, your happiness comes from feeling respected over feeling loved. And the reason perhaps you're happy now is because you have more respect for yourself because of the decisions you're making. And you have self-respect. Yeah. And I think that a lot of men, even if they have self-respect, if nobody else respects them, they're struggling.
I have no interest in being happy. I wake up and say, how can I be proud of myself? What can I achieve that makes me proud of myself? How can I do things that make other people respect me and are proud of me? How do I have a day which I complete when I come home? The woman who's in my house says, wow, there's no man like you. How do I live a life so my children look at me and go, Dad's a superhero? How do I make my mother call me and say, I couldn't possibly be more proud of you? I have duties to complete. I have to live the exact same life regardless of how I feel. So for me, happiness is not a good indicator on how life should be lived.
Happiness to me is a super interesting concept because when people come to me and say, I'm not happy, I say, why should you be happy? They're like, what do you mean? It's like, who told you should be happy all the time without working for it? Happiness is at the top of a mountain somewhere. You ain't been anywhere. You haven't even climbed it.
Nobody cares about men being happy. We talk about women being happy. We want children to be happy. If you look at a full-grown man on Christmas morning, he's smiling because his wife is smiling. He's smiling because his children are smiling. Nobody even buys him anything. What do they buy the dad? Socks? Nobody cares about men being happy. So why do you as a man care about you being happy? That's how you're going to fall into these traps. I'm a very content person. I live a fantastic life. I'm not miserable or depressed. I'm not sad ever. But I don't wake up and go, I want to be happy today. No, sir. I wake up and say, okay, things must be done. And those things will be completed regardless of how I feel. Regardless of how I feel. You can lock me in a dungeon for an unknown amount of time in Romania, and I will still complete as many push-ups as I can possibly do in the dark by myself. What else am I going to do? Sit there and be sad? Happy or sad? The push-ups must be done. It's called duty. It's called honor. It's called pride. So I'm asking you why you don't have them. You could be a genuine force for good in the world. And you know what's funny? The funniest thing, the most ironic thing about all of this is that if you don't prioritize happiness and you prioritize feeling proud of yourself, you end up happy by extension. I'm happy because I'm proud of myself because I have a fantastic life and mansions and supercars and money, most famous man in the world, thousands of love letters a week from beautiful women. Of course I'm happy, but I didn't ever choose to try and be happy. If I would have chosen to try and be happy, I would have never ended up happy.
I don't want a woman to ever go through anything bad in her life. I think a man should go through it for her and protect her because I think that's how she's her best self as a woman. But I think to be your best self as a man is the absolute opposite. And when someone emails me and says, this has happened to me, I'm like, good. No, what do you mean good? It's terrible. How else are you going to become important? How else are you going to find endless fire to get up and struggle in the face of the competition that's out here in the world? How else are you're going to do all that with a nice cushy life? If any man's honest with himself, think about the biggest transformative stages in your life. Think about the times you got the most work done. It was a bad part of your life. You were heartbroken or, you lost a house or broke or whatever. That's when you did shit. When everything was fine, the mortgage is paid, dinner's on time, it's kind of doop-de-doop-de-doo, little by little, do a little bit of work, do a little bit of relax. But the big events come from trauma. This is it. So it's a cheat code. It's a cheat code to climb the mountain. So when I get a message from whoever and he goes, my wife left me, I'm devastated. I say, I understand. I completely understand how hard it can be to lose a woman that you've given your entire life to. And you've done so many nice things. And then because of one thing you did, her innate and absolutely insane level of ungratefulness has turned her bitter, and she now talks to you like she hates you over one thing you've done after thousands of efforts showing how dedicated you are to her. And even now that you're prepared to die for her, she doesn't give a shit about you. I understand that pain. But my answer is, good. It's still good. Now take all of that pain, and instead of emailing me, do this. And then you're going to become the kind of person that women don't leave. Then you win. I think everybody on the planet has something to prove. If you walk through life and feel like you have nothing to prove, then you're a loser. If you wake up each day and go, I don't owe anybody anything, I don't have to prove anything to anybody, then you are a loser, because you are absolutely not incorrect. You must prove yourself to other people. You must prove yourself to your bloodline, as we just discussed. You must prove yourself to God. God hates the lazy. He can't stand them. If he gives you all these genetic dispositions and these natural God-given gifts, if you have 2 arms and 2 legs and you can think, and you're not trying your absolute best, that's the reason you're not lucky. He doesn't like you. He likes the people which show him the beauty of his own creation. He likes to give somebody building blocks and them to build something amazing. It's the best thing about being a man. You get to build who you are, right? You can decide if you want to be a funny comedian or a musician or a kickboxing world champion or fight the Matrix. You can decide whatever you want to be. God loves to see that. Those people, for some reason, seem to be enormously lucky, right? The person who goes, I don't have to prove anything to God. I don't owe all of my ancestors any effort. You know, for 5,000 years, people were dodging saber-toothed tigers and catching the plague and running from Genghis Khan. I don't owe them anything. I don't owe them a thing, because I want to play video games. These people are losers. I wake up every day with something to prove. I have hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm in fantastic shape, 4 times world champion, fighting the Matrix out here by myself. More. I will have to be braver. I must try harder. All I do is prove myself. So when I hear people go, I don't have nothing to prove, then you're a loser. Peasants have never felt like they needed to prove anything. But kings felt like they needed to go and conquer land. Isn't that it's coincidental that the king, who already had it all, felt like he needed to go to some far-flung land and conquer it and take it and prove he's the king. But the peasants, oh, I don't have to prove nothing to nobody. You're a loser then. You're a dummy. I absolutely and utterly, completely have everything to prove to everybody all of the time. That's who I am. I will prove anything to anybody. If I sit and say X, I will prove it.
Happiness is the number one thing that must be earned. And I'll tell you that my happiness is based on very real world achievements. I couldn't be happy if I was broke. I couldn't be happy if I was obese. I couldn't be happy if I was lonely. I couldn't be happy if I wasn't respected. I couldn't be happy if I couldn't whoop a dude's ass. I couldn't be happy in those scenarios, so I made sure none of them scenarios came true. I have earned my happiness via hard work. It's the top of a mountain which I have climbed. I deserve it. I deserve to go to sleep with a smile on my face. Yes, that's what I deserve. And every single guy who hasn't got it probably doesn't deserve it. The universe is very giving and very fair. People seem to think that the world is unfair, and those are all the same people who tell themselves they're unlucky. I actually believe the opposite. I believe the universe is a very giving place. I believe God is a very giving being, and that the world, all in all, generally balances out and is pretty fair. If you're the kind of person who deserves a good life and works their ass off and genuinely wants it and tries very hard, guess what you get 99% of the time? A good life. And if you're the kind of person who doesn't really deserve it, slacks 3 days a week, a little bit lazy, snakes his friends, talks behind people's back, blah, 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 guess what? Your life ain't all that good. The universe is pretty fair and pretty balanced. I've yet to meet somebody who gets up every day, does what they're supposed to do, works hard, goes to the gym, then goes to work, does their best, makes their money, looks after it, is sensible, doesn't blow it, etc., who then fails. I've never met anybody who fails when they do all the right things. The universe is a very fair and giving place, all in all. There are very few exceptions to that. So when I see somebody who doesn't have the success they want, especially when I see, let's say, a group of people who don't have the success they want, there's no way you're all exceptions to that rule. You may want something, but you certainly don't deserve it, and that's why you don't have it.
You shouldn't wake up and say, how happy am I today? How does that affect how I act? That's not how I operate. I wake up and say, what must be done? What will allow me to be proud of myself? What will allow me to achieve? And those things will be done regardless of how I feel. And that's how the most successful people on earth all operate. The most successful people on earth don't only do things because they feel happy about doing them.
If you never make a mark on the world, then you effectively never existed. And when you're gone, nobody will care. And that's very important because you have a duty to your ancestors and you have a duty to God. So you must make a choice. And this is a genuine choice for you people at home. Do you want to live in obscurity forever and be invisible and not matter and have an easier life? I would argue that it's not easier because in your heart and in your soul, you're going to feel guilty knowing you could have been something you're not. Or do you want to try your absolute best and struggle and suffer every day of your life, paying the rent for all of the amazing things around you? We pay endless rent. We pay rent for our bodies. We pay rent for our relationships. We pay rent to keep our kids. We pay rent to keep our business. We pay rent to keep our freedom. Every single day is work to pay the rent. It's absolutely never ending. And you have to make that choice. So if you have a pen and paper in front of you, you need to decide, do you want to be invisible with a lower rent bill, or do you want to be important and work hard and suffer to make sure that the rent is paid? It's a choice you must make, and it's binary, and you must be extremely dedicated towards the decision you finally make.
I refuse to accept that there are people out there who cannot become happy, contented individuals. I refuse to accept we live in a world where God has created people who, no matter how hard they work and how good their life becomes, can't be happy. I don't accept that. I accept that the universe is a very giving place and that God loves all of us. And if you try your best and you work hard, you can become a better person.
The beauty of life as a man is to be great. So you have to sit here and ask yourself, do you want to be a happy loser that's insignificant? Nobody knows you exist. Women don't respect you. Men don't respect you. Nobody cares if you live or die, but you get to smile all the time. Or do you want to be one of the most important people on the planet with a little bit of stress? Alternatively, you can go out there into the world, try and implement your mark on the world, work hard, try to get rich, more money, more problems. You can try and start a business, the stress of that. You can lose your girlfriend because all you're doing is working. This is a new level of stress, a new level of trauma, but at least you'll be a somebody at the end of it. As a man, there is no easy life. Your life is not about being easy. Your life is not about being happy. Your life is always going to be difficult. All of the pain you feel, all of the sadness you feel, you're supposed to feel as a man, and you have two effective binary choices. You either go through the suffering and go through the trauma and go through the hardship it takes to be a man of value, or you suffer eternity as a nobody. There's two ways to suffer. You either suffer as becoming a somebody, or you suffer as a perpetual and forever nobody.
David Goggins?
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a hero. From what I've seen of David, he seems like an extremely dedicated, hardworking person who understands everything about pain and brutality and finding the strength inside of your mind to push yourself beyond the limits of what you think your body is capable of. I've never seen anything of David I disagree with. Nothing.
So that is someone...
I don't know him personally. I've never met him. But he seems to have the mindset of a winner, and that's exactly what you need to achieve. He's the kind of guy who gets up and says, this is going to hurt. I'm going to do it anyway because that's what makes me me.
Gotcha.
What question are they asking? That's what they're saying.
They're spamming his name to say, what are your thoughts on him? So
I think he's, and this is the thing about the world, right? We don't all have to be the same. We don't have to all be carbon copies of each other. We don't have to all agree on 100% of things. In fact, some of my best friends, I'll say I disagree with maybe 70% of what they say.
Right.
But if you're a full-grown man who sticks to his word, believes in his principles, believes in hard work, doesn't bully anyone, doesn't pick on people, isn't a little bitch, isn't passive aggressive, isn't pushing any of these destructive agendas, and you're getting up and you're working hard and you're dedicating yourself and you're trying to help other people the best way you know how, I have respect for you. I don't need to know him personally to know that I like who he is overall. Because I've seen his work. I've seen him doing marathons I couldn't do. I wouldn't say I couldn't do because there's nothing I can't do, but I certainly wouldn't like to do.
Right.
He goes through a lot of pain. And I respect men like that. I don't need to know all of his ins and outs of his opinions and his beliefs to respect him as a person. I respect him. I respect any man who works hard. Aiden, if you didn't take drugs and you worked your ass off in the gym, of course I'll always be able to destroy you for the rest of your life because there's echelons in life and I'm a predator and you're not. That's fine. But I'd still respect you. If you tried your very best to become the best version of yourself you could, I'd still respect you. I'm a lion. I'm a lion. You're a rabbit. But if you became the strongest rabbit you could possibly be, I'd still respect you. I'd be like, oh, that's a rabbit. Yeah, but at least he's trying. Of course, I'll always fucking rip you apart, but that's not what it's about. It's about the fact that you're doing the absolute best you can with the very feeble body God gave you. All of this is very purposeful. Nothing is an accident.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important people have something to believe in which is rigid and strong. And they have something to believe in with correct, yes, no, clear guidelines. This is why it's so important you have certain ideals or certain religious structures which may be deemed intolerant by others, but it's their intolerance in and of itself that makes it have any principle at all. That's what's so important about all of it. Everybody believes in something. And I think the closer you find yourself to God, the better a person you would be. If you were strictly religious, you wouldn't have become a drug addict. You wouldn't have tried drugs because you know it's haram.
A lot of people at home, if they want to make more money, need to invest in themselves.
Yeah.
Invest in themselves. And maybe they've been taught, well, if I just save. Let me say to everyone here at home, if you are saving less than 10 grand a month and you're just saving, your chance of being rich is fucking zero. You need to go and do something else and make more. Invest in yourself, get knowledge, pay attention to mentors, start another business, open something. You need to do something because you're not going to save your way to the top. The average person at home, you're not earning enough to ever save. If you never save 100% of your wage, you're still going to be broke. You have to get to a level of earning. I wake up every day and I think, how do I make my life better? Nobody else wakes up each day and goes, how do I make Andrew Tate's life better? So if you're not the person who's waking up every day going, how do I improve my existence? Then nobody is. Nobody on the planet is considering improving your one spin on Earth.
No one else cares.
Nobody else cares. So if you don't care, then you're fucked. So you need to wake up and care. And it's amazing to me. Like you're saying, how did I find my mentors? I just tried a bunch of them. Like when I had no money, I would try very hard I'd listen to lots of different people, or I'd try different things. And I wasn't scared to invest in myself, because I understand that, look, if he's taking time out of his life, then I need to reward him for it financially. And I tried very hard, and I listened, and I paid attention, and I was never lazy. I don't believe there's a person on the planet who pays attention, tries their best, is never lazy, is on time, works hard, has a mentor, and is giving it his all, who isn't rich. I don't believe it. I think that if you do all those things, you're rich. And if you don't have any money, you're missing one of those key elements. Now, you can fool yourself and you can fool everyone else and you can pretend you're doing them. But if you're truly honest with yourself, am I finding people who are trying to teach me what I want to know? And am I trying my best? And the answer is fucking no every time. And it truly is, the abundance mindset is true. I remember when I was broke. When I was broke, I thought everyone was broke.
You do.
Because I was broke.
100%.
And then you get rich and you start thinking, shit, everyone has money. Every supercar I want is sold out. Every diamond watch I want is sold out. The private jet charters are full. The yachts are full. Like, as soon as you get rich, you start...
Who are all these people that got money? Who are they?
I was just in Dubai, and my houses are being built. They're going to be completed this year. I bought a bunch of them off plan, so I decided to rent. And I rented a house on the Palm, and it was $25,000 a day, dollars, and I rented it. And I'm sitting there, and the landlord comes and goes, I just got an offer for $35,000 a day. You need to leave. And I go, okay, well, I'll pay $40,000 a day. And then he came back and goes, the guy's offered $50,000 a day for a year. And I'm like, who am I even in a bidding war with? And I just left. I was like, you know what? Take it. I'll get another one. But like, there's people out there with money like you couldn't fucking fathom. There is so much money in the world. So you do get to a level of wealth. Another time it hit me, I was at Monaco. I was sitting around dinner in Monaco after it was on a car rally, funnily enough. And there's like 10 of us. And I just looked around the table by coincidence, and I saw everyone's wearing a nice watch. And I thought, when I was broke, the idea, if someone told me they had 30 or 40 grand in the bank, I thought they were doing good. Now I'm sitting at a table, everyone's wearing $100,000 watch. Nobody gives a fuck. It's just like, there's levels to the game. And when you get up to the top, you realize there's money everywhere. The abundance mindset, there are so many rich people. So if you're not where you want to be financially, I hope this pisses you off, because I'm telling you to annoy you, that you're sitting there struggling to pay your bills. There are people out there making so much money you couldn't possibly fathom, who have anything they want all of the time. And you may sit there and go, oh, but they're miserable. A lot of them aren't. Trust me. They're having a great time. So you need to make a bunch more money, because there's money everywhere.
I find it amazing when people say they don't have motivation. I have people come to me and say, I want to get rich. I don't have motivation. I want to work harder. I said, how can you not have motivation to get rich when somebody like me with a head start like mine is still working 18-hour days every single day, 7 days a week without having a day off? I'm going to crush you. You don't stand a chance. I will beat you. And you're just going to sit there and perpetually lose because you can't find the motivation to crawl up out the mud and stay a bug until you end up in your 15-minute city getting your 17th injection like a dummy, like a useless eater. All I do is work. Nothing is fun. I don't have fun.
Yeah. I've spoken to dudes and like, yeah, you know, I had a bad couple months. Why? Oh, my girl left me. You've wasted months? You've wasted months over some... Like, you had think of how much God loves you to have given you the grace and given you the opportunity to waste months of human time over some chick. Like, talk about blessed head to toe. If I waste months, empires are going to collapse. I'm going to end up in a cell or dead if I waste months. I have things to do every single day. I can't waste a second. Like, these people are just absolutely infinitely blessed. And their mindset is a product of that, because they're spoiled children. Absolutely spoiled children. If you're going through life with any other mindset besides a hyper competitive one, where you are capable of competing with some of the most dangerous men on the planet in all their forms, me and my network, and also my competitors. If you don't have that mindset, then you have to understand that you are spoiled. You're spoiled by your reality. I believe there's only 3 reasons people are not rich. One of 3 reasons. They're either stupid, arrogant, or lazy. Stupid is actually the smallest category. People think, oh, you know, there's a lot of stupid people. There are, but I know a lot of stupid people with a lot of money, right? There's so much money in the world. To be too stupid to generate money, I think is less than 5% of the population who are genuinely too dumb to ever make a good wage. Then you have arrogant and lazy, and these are the 2 most common. Lazy because people just, oh, you know, but I need time to myself. Oh, you know, but it's the evening. Or, you know, it's hyper competitive. There are people who do not need times to themselves. There's an Indian in Islam, or there's a guy in Islamabad who'll do your job online for $3 an hour and he doesn't sleep. You're going to lose, right? So if you're going to be lazy in any regard, you have to understand there are people like me who are billionaires who work 18 hours a day. When I finish this, I get into my car and I open my laptop and I work on my way to my next appointment. And then I'm going to work all night till the day I go. When I go to sleep, I close my laptop and I'm asleep a minute later. I work. That's all I do. So lazy is a big problem because people go, oh, but I just want to relax. If you just want to relax, that's fine. But you're competing against people who just don't want to relax and you're going to lose. And the last, and I'd say that's around, a lot of people have that element to them. A lot of people are lazy. That's about 50% of people. But the main reason people are not rich is because they are arrogant. 50% of people are brutally arrogant. The arrogance of people is truly mind-bending. If you know so much, why are you broke? You obviously don't know. If I want to learn how to box, I wouldn't walk into a boxing gym, find a guy who can box and go, yeah, not bad, but can he really punch? Like, this is how people think when it comes to money. You guys are all successful enough. You can sit there and say, look, I do X, Y, Z. I have X, Y, Z. You don't have it. So do you want to learn how to play piano from the piano teacher, or do you want to sit there as an arrogant brokey? Most people are brutally arrogant, and you can sit there and you can try and help them, and they're just so arrogant. They think, oh, I can do it myself, or I'll work it out myself. I don't need help. And it's arrogance, and it keeps them at the bottom.
God is going to test you, and he's going to see if you really are the man you say you are. It's easy to say you're a tough guy, then God's going to put you in a position where you get a chance to prove you're a tough guy. I didn't miss a single day's training. I did not miss a single day's push-ups in that cell. I wasn't too depressed to train. I wasn't too sad to train, too anxious to train, too frustrated to train. I trained endlessly every single day. And it's interesting you talk about movies because it's true. Every single hero in every single movie goes through adversity. There's never been a hero movie where all he does is win. No, to be a hero, you have to suffer. And this can be extrapolated out, not just about my life, but about all men out there. If you're suffering in some degree, even if you're a normal guy with a normal job and you're suffering at your job, or you've had your heart broken because your girl left you, or whatever, if you're suffering, that's part of your hero's journey. There is no hero's journey without suffering. If you have an easy life the whole way through, you never get to be a hero. That's the whole point of being a man, is that you're supposed to suffer. You're supposed to eat pain for breakfast. You're supposed to come and grow into a better version of yourself. That's exactly what life's supposed to be about as a man. And another thing I want to say, when you mentioned that movie that popped to my head, I find it amazing that men will sit and watch movies about prisoners of war in Japan, or watch movies about men who go to war and risk their lives, or watch all these hero movies, and they have admiration for the hero, and they believe themselves to be some version of a hero, and then they're too afraid to say no to putting on a mask. If you're not going to say no to putting on a mask, don't watch hero movies anymore, because you're certainly not a hero. You are one of the villains. You're not even one of the important villains. You're not even one of the villains with a name. You're the stupid little henchmen who get beaten up. Those guys who are on screen for a flash of a second and die without consequence. Nobody even cares or mentions them again. Their family don't even get to give them a funeral. They're nobodies. You're a nobody villain. You're not even an important one. The important villains, we know their names. You're a number. You're not a name. If you're going to watch superhero movies, don't put a mask on your fucking face. And if you want to be a superhero in life, you need to understand that for 80% of the movie, you're going to suffer. For 80% of the movie, you're going to lose. Watch any superhero movie. For 80% of the movie, it is nothing but pain and frustration and difficulty. And when your life is that way, you have a chance to grow into something fantastic, and you should thank God for every difficult thing he puts in your path. Yeah, so I knew the guards were watching me, and I'm stubborn, and I believe that every time I did push-ups and they saw me doing them, I believed in my heart it annoyed them. And I am a very stubborn man, because they wanted me to be sad and broken. But every time they saw me, I was sweating and training. And every single time they'd check, they saw nothing but a lion who refused to stop doing push-ups. And they didn't want to do push-ups. They were too lazy. They're sitting around. They're the guards. They're not doing anything. And every single time they checked me for weeks and weeks and weeks, all I did was train. And I found the motivation to do it by knowing that it bothered them that I refused to quit. I'm stubborn like that. I don't even know if it's true. All I know is that I can adopt a mental model which makes me as competitive as possible, and I decided my push-ups bothered them, and they were the ones who were keeping me locked in a room, so I will do push-ups at them. I didn't do push-ups for me. I did push-ups at them endlessly. If I was awake, I was doing push-ups, or I was resting, preparing for my next set at them. It was my only weapon of defiance. A man is unfairly imprisoned in a Romanian jail cell and trains so hard he emerges stronger than ever before. That is a movie. You get to live a movie as a man if all you had was some balls. Even you, think about your movie. You're literally saving the world, predicting the future. Our movies, I'm the most Googled man alive. We are living movie scripts. Why? Because we have bravery. Most men sit there and wonder why they're depressed because you don't get to live a movie. You're not the main character of anything. You're not even a secondary character in anyone else's movie. You're an unimportant nobody because you were afraid your entire life. You've lived like a coward your whole life. You were afraid of what might happen if you have some balls. And then you wonder why you're depressed. I'd be depressed if I was you. Of course, your life sucks. I'd rather go to jail as me than live free as you. Because when you're free, you can't even do anything. You can't go where you want, you're broke. You can't have sex, girls don't want you. You can't speak because no one listens. So what are you free to do? You're more in jail than I ever was. When I was in jail, I was getting thousands of love letters from beautiful women around the world. Every single tweet I put out was watched by millions of people. I wasn't in jail. You're more in jail than I ever was. When I was in jail, I was getting thousands of love letters from beautiful women around the world. Every single tweet I put out was watched by millions of people. I wasn't in jail. 50 to 100 million people. Exactly. Most of these people who have lived with cowardice in an attempt to preserve their freedom aren't even free. And that's what they don't understand. They're enslaved worse than I ever have been or ever will be. My mind is free. I'm allowed to think what I want to think and say what I want to say. They have thoughts and they go, don't know if I should say that. They second guess themselves. They're their own worst enemy. Every single part of me is on my team. I have enemies who want me dead. Fine. But every single part of me, my mind, my hands, my legs, every single part of me is on my team. My body doesn't second guess itself. My mind doesn't turn on itself. We don't break and self-sabotage. There's no civil wars inside of Andrew Tate. All of us against you. All of us. Well, absolutely it's backfiring because that's the worst thing you do to a teenage boy, say, don't watch this man. And the thing that they don't understand, because these people are so disconnected from reality. All of these people are genuinely disconnected. They don't understand that my message makes people feel better. I teach men to be strong. I teach men how to make money. I teach men how to be confident, how to be motivated, how to be disciplined, how to be diligent, how to be hardworking. If a man adopts these qualities and applies them to his life will get better. This isn't a matter of just consuming content on the internet. This is a matter of people's lives genuinely changing their day-to-day reality. If that happens, if somebody's day-to-day reality changes because they're a fan of me and they listen to my content, who do you think you are to come along and tell them to stop and go back to misery? It's never going to work. It's never going to work. And the reason I'm so heavily demonized is not because the things I say, it's because I am so massively influential. And when I'm teaching these young men, these young boys to have any degree of standard for themselves, any degree of parameter for what they will accept inside of their minds, they see that as a threat to the slave programming. If a man stands up for himself and has self-respect, he doesn't want to wear a mask because he respects himself. He doesn't want to take antidepressants. He respects himself. He doesn't want to eat the bugs. He respects himself. They don't want men to have self-respect. We're not allowed to have self-respect. We have to sit there and be completely empty vessels waiting for the slave programming to be plugged in, so we'll comply. That's all they want is compliance. And that's why me, as a man who stands up and says, listen, you should become as strong as possible. You should believe in yourself. You should be motivated. And you should also try to make as much money as possible, because money is a very important weapon in the fight against slavery. I am seen as public enemy number one for genuinely improving people's lives. That's how evil these people are. Absolutely. Strong men make women happy. I get called a misogynist all the time for telling men to have standards. Men with standards and principle and capability and competence make women happy. The number one way to improve female mental health is to make men better men. And the reason they don't want men to be strong and have any kind of control over their relationships or their households is very simple. Females are easier to sway with an emotional argument. If you have a bunch of households which are run by women and the woman is in charge, and then the woman is going to sit and watch an emotional argument, propaganda, which is all that the MSM use. They can't use logical arguments, so they use emotional ones. Put the mask on for grandma. Well, grandma's 98, and 98-year-olds unfortunately die of diseases. And telling a 6-year-old kid to put a mask on, or a 21-year-old strong man to put a mask on because 98-year-old grandma might get sick, doesn't even make any logical sense. But it's an emotional argument, and women fall for emotional arguments easier than men. So how do you control a populace? It's very simple. You subdue the men, you make the women in charge, you make it a matriarchy, and then you use emotional arguments via the propaganda mechanisms, because women are more likely to agree with them, and then you have the entire population under control. That's why it's done on purpose. They don't want a man to have any degree of control over anything in his life. Even his own house. You can't be the king of your own household anymore. And it's making women miserable. It's making men miserable. It makes the entire populace miserable. And there's another thing I want people to understand. Misery is also a very key component to their slave agenda. Because when you're truly miserable, you are selfish. You don't care about anything that happens outside of yourself. People say that you and I perhaps were angry people, but I'll tell you something. We're positive people because we care. We care about what happens to our country. We care about what happens to our cities. We care about what happens to the future for our children. When you're truly miserable and truly sad, you're self-obsessed. You don't care about anything but yourself. They want us all miserable on antidepressants, eating the bugs, watching the TV shows. Because then when something happens down the street that's not supposed to happen, we don't care. Oh, yeah, well, the store down the street got robbed and my town's on fire, but I'm sad anyway. They want us all selfish. Because when we're selfish, you can't band together to resist anything. It's a good question. And they are the end result of a very sophisticated propaganda machine, which has been built with the sole intention of creating miserable drones, which will believe anything they are told. These people can be told the sky is green, and they'll believe it. And all of the propaganda which is being pumped their way is negative. The world is going to end because the sun is hot. Don't have kids. That's bad for some reason. Don't eat meat. Only eat the bugs. Sit at home. You should have a therapist. You should be on antidepressants. Like, they're just trying to pump nothing but negativity of these people, and they absorb it. And this is what I said to one of my friends. My friend said, Andrew, you've been through so much for telling the truth. Why do you do it? And I say, well, you either fight against the injustice and tell the truth, and you suffer the consequences of that, or you believe the bullshit and suffer the consequences of being at war with your own mind and your own biology and end up miserable anyway. There is a war that cannot be escaped, and I would rather live true to God and tell the truth and fight the war this way. But it's truly incredible that these leftists do what they do. And I also think there's something that global about the world that most people don't understand. The people who are in charge of the planet, who are in charge of global finance and make all the important decisions and who are in charge of money, they are called globalists for a reason. They have no particular interest in any one country. All they care about is control and maximizing profits. And I don't think many people understand that. For a long time, we've been exploiting the second and third worlds because someone has to lose for another person to win. There's no light without dark. We've been exploiting the second and third worlds for a long time to be prosperous in the West, and that's now changing for a variety of reasons, which will be a very long conversation. But the globalists have no problem exploiting the first world and simply turning it on its head, destroying the societies of America, destroying the societies of Europe, doing whatever they need to do to make endless and forever profit, and they'll simply move to a penthouse in another part of the world. They have no problem to move to Africa, or they have no problem moving to the Middle East. They have no problem to live in Asia. As long as they get forever profits and billions of dollars, they'll let Europe burn. And all of these leftist policies are designed to create a slave class of people which have no interest in trying to preserve the sanctity of the nations they live within. Oh, absolutely, pod people. And pod people can't have any remnants of warrior spirit inside of them because they're not going to be able to live in their pod. So this is the point. The world's over in 2030. Why go to the gym? Why get strong? Why work hard? Why get rich? Why be funny? Why be charismatic? Why do anything? It doesn't matter. The world's going to end. Sit in your pod. Wait for the food delivery. That's what they want from all of us. They want all of us to have absolutely no ambition and to sit there and be slave-minded. And it's very difficult to resist enslavement if you need the government to eat. I think all governments on the planet are constantly trying to encroach on the freedom of their populace, trying to get closer and closer to some version of communism where you have to absolutely and utterly comply or you literally do not have food to eat. And that's what they want. And it's an obvious agenda. It's a very obvious agenda, and it plays into the worst characteristics of the human psyche. Because there are a lot of people out there who, when given the excuse to be lazy, will be lazy. When given the excuse for why they're not successful, will take that excuse and use it as a shield for their own glaring, obvious failings. And we're now building two camps. We have the camps of losers and winners, and the winners are telling the truth, and the losers are just adopting all of the slave mind programming. And unfortunately, it's becoming more and more dangerous now to even say the truth because these losers band together like hyenas and attack anybody who stands up and tells the truth, like they've attacked you and like they've attacked me. The people who are trying to put me in jail are not good people. They're not good people. They're not honest, hardworking, God-fearing people. They're evil people, and they know exactly what they're trying to do. It's scary. Absolutely, they don't have God on their side. The moral arc of the universe bends towards truth. It takes unlimited energy to continue to propagate a lie. It's very difficult to do. It goes against the law of physics. If you put a lie into the universe, you need to continually push that lie to keep it afloat. It's like a hot air balloon. You need to keep that engine running. You need to keep the flame going permanently to keep it floating. Because as long as people use their own eyes and their own senses and eventually begin to think, the lie is going to sink and it's going to disappear. And there's certainly been a shift in consciousness in the last 3 to 4 years. 3 to 4 years ago, it was much worse than it is today. And I feel like I said this when I was canceled in August of last year. I was doing Patrick Bet-David's podcast, and I said, they are making a mistake. When you have power, the only guarantee to power is that one day you will lose it. And the quickest way to lose power is to overuse it, to overreach, to overstretch. When you do that, everyone loses faith in you. For you to have power, you must have the faith of the populace. Once people understand that you're abusing your power and it's no longer a fair system, they're no longer interested in what you have to say or your power mechanisms. And then you can only resort to complete brutality. And I think it's going to be quite difficult for them to do now that the consciousness of people are waking up. But certainly, yeah, I feel like we are winning now. I feel like you and I have been through the trenches and suffered the absolute worst of it 5 to 6 years ago. And now most people understand. They overstepped with the COVID lies. They overstepped with the censorship. They overstepped with the election lies. They overstepped trying to say anybody who tells the truth is a sexual predator. They overstepped by protecting all the people who we know do genuinely bad things they refuse to talk about. They overstepped so many times now that people have a thirst in their hearts to know what's really going on. And that's our chance to finally make it clear to people. And I pray we can finally get through to people to a level where next time they try the next big psyop, which we can talk about, which might be coming up soon, everybody rejects it. Because there's something really important, Alex. We talk always about who controls the world. But ultimately, without our compliance, they can't control anything. We control the world. A mask mandate is a piece of paper. It's a piece of fucking paper. That's it. It's cowardice that makes that have power. If everyone wasn't a coward and stood up and said, no, I'm sorry, I respectfully decline, then it's over. We still control the world, but that's why they're trying their absolute best to make sissies of all of us. And it's very interesting we say this because I don't want anyone to think we're inciting violence because that's not what we're doing. Even during the last COVID lockdown, you can resist so easily in a non-violent way. If I went into a store and they said, you have a mask, put a mask on. Don't have one, sorry. Okay, I'll give you one. Okay, give me one. And then I wouldn't walk over to take it. No, I stand there and make them walk across the store to give it to me. Then I take it and I half hang it on my ear and I don't wear it properly. Then they come up to me and say, oh, you need to wear it properly. I say, oh, okay. Then I don't wear it properly. Then I take it off completely. Then they come up to me and go, oh, where's your mask? I say, sorry, I dropped it on the floor and it's dirty. I need another one. Then they have to go back behind the counter, get another mask, walk back to the other side of the store, give it to you. Make them work. Make them work. If they want you to wear a mask so fucking bad, make them walk a marathon. Make them work. Don't make it easy for them. If they want to stand there and try and make a slave of you, at least make them do something for it. I had people walking back and forth around stores getting me 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different masks. I never even put it on because I dropped it on the floor, right? We're all scared of germs now. I can't wear a mask from the floor. It might have COVID on it. Don't come too close. Social distancing. Just put the mask there. I'll collect it in a second. Make them work for it. That's civil disobedience. If everyone did that, imagine you worked in a store and every person who came in did what I just described. Are you going to really run around for 12 hours a day? You'll give up after 2 hours. But the reason it doesn't happen, the reason they get away with this is because everybody just complies. Mask on. Okay. Like, I'm not describing anything violent. I'm not describing anything that will get you arrested. I'm not describing anything that will even cause an argument. I'm just talking about using your fucking brain and having some balls. And it's very important if they try and bring this back. I really pray that this will be a breaking point for their entire apparatus, because I think enough people are awake now to absolutely and utterly resist. That was a huge psyop. And I love to think, and I hope I'm right, I love to think that anybody who lived through that has learned their lesson. And like I said, the number one guarantee of power is that you'll lose it, because eventually with power, you will overstep and you will overreach. And if they try another lockdown, another pandemic, I think it's the biggest overreach they could possibly try. So I hope they do it. And I hope that people do what they're supposed to do, which is say no. Yeah, so it's kind of scary, because We are the tip of the spear, and when you're the leader, when you're the lead of the charge, they want you dead first, right? It's kind of like the old adage. They said if 5 guys are going to start a fight on you, hit the biggest one first. And that's why they're coming for men like us, because they know we're inspiring a resistance. And the resistance we're inspiring is nothing more than self-respect and parameters for what you'll accept from a government, and to stand up and say, I'm a sovereign individual and I'm allowed to decide what goes in my blood. Imagine thinking you're not allowed to decide what goes inside of your own blood. Imagine waking up and saying, my blood is not mine. It belongs to the government. It's absolutely insane. But what they're going to try and do next is control the money. Because when they control the money, they can control where you go and they can control whether you eat or not. And I don't know about anybody else, but I can tell you from my own personal experience, in the last 3 to 4 years, the banking sector has become more strict than it's ever been. It's become harder and harder to not only make money, but move money and have money. 10 years ago, if you wanted to do $1 million wire, it was a headache. Nowadays, if you want to do $1 million wire internationally, let's say I want to say $1 million to, I don't know, Turkey or Qatar or Australia, anywhere, the amount of headache, paperwork, delays, it's nearly impossible to do. It's getting harder and harder because they want to control the money. If they control the money, they control absolutely not only everything else by extension. So it's CBDCs that's coming. The banking system locking people down for dissidents, is, we already know is happening. And once they control the money, then they're going to come along and say, don't worry, you're allowed money if you do this. And from there, they're going to expand out. I don't think most people understand that absolutely every single thing they talk about propagating and pushing to the populace is a Trojan horse. I was arguing about climate change with someone the other day, and I said, listen, I love the environment. I would hate for nature to be destroyed. I love nature. Nobody with a sane mind dislikes nature. The problem is we can't make any laws to protect nature, because every single time we do, they Trojan horse it with some garbage that has nothing to do with the actual issue and is purely agenda driven to destroy my life and make me a slave. So what can we do now? And that's what they're going to do. They're going to come along, control all the money, and they're going to say, because of the climate, you're allowed money if you don't drive your car very often. And that has nothing to do with saving the earth. It's everything to do with controlling you. And that's the problem. Now we have people in charge of us that we can't even trust to fix any issue ever, because all they're interested in is injecting Trojan horses and destroying our lives. It's incredible. Has a border, and by extension no longer has a legal system. That, because without a border, you don't have a legal system. You don't even have a nation anymore. You want to talk about rape without consent? You absolutely not only nailed it. And they use this word and they use this attack on any strong man primarily as an effort to damage masculinity. They make it out to the world that if you're a man who is traditionally masculine, who stands up, who is strong, who is not apologetic for his opinions, then by extension, you must be a rapist. And they do this so that men are afraid to act this way, because that, once again, pushes the idea that men should be sissies and soft, so it's easier for them to have slave-minded individuals. What's actually crazy is this. Women want men who are masculine. The kind of man who is not going to rape is the kind of man who has choices and genuine access to females who love him. Why would a man who is successful in all realms of human endeavor, including his relationships with females, ever rape anybody? No, I'll tell you who's a rapist. The liberal who eats the bugs, who's fat and ugly, with no personality, who's sad on antidepressants. No woman wants him. He's the kind of guy who has to rape to have sex, not the traditionally masculine, toxically male, that the man they try and say. So it's absolutely and utterly, it's a mind attack. It's a psyop. By saying if you stand up and you have muscles and you have a nice car and you're rich and you're strong and you have opinions and you say, yeah, this is what I believe and I'm not sorry for it, that means you are a bad person and by extension a rapist. And what they're trying to do is stop men from acting that way. They want all of us afraid. Without fear, none of this works. I think it was Goebbels who said it. I don't know if your research team can find it. Goebbels said it. You lie and you lie on repeat and you make them afraid. And that's all you have to do. Nazi Germany literally said the exact same thing, and look what they did to the world. And it's amazing that the tactics haven't changed. The apparatus, the MSM hasn't changed. It's the same game. It's exactly the same game it's always been. Well, that's the thing, because they want me to cower or cuck. What they're trying to do is, because I inspire so many people, if they can break me, they can break the souls of millions of people by extension. And also what they're trying to do, they're hoping that I will believe I can reason with these psychopaths. I don't think I can reason with people who hate me. They hate me. They hate everything I stand for. They hate the way I walk. They hate the way I look. They hate the way I think. They hate my ideas. They hate my relationships with my brother. They hate my friends. They hate everything about me. I have no interest in trying to reason with them. I'm not going to stand up and say, well, maybe if I talk a little bit softer, they'll be nice to me. No, I don't operate under that frame. It's like Churchill. Churchill said, no, we're not going to negotiate with Hitler. There's no point in negotiating with this man. I'm not here to negotiate with anybody. If you're going to destroy me, do it. I'm going to hold my head high. I'm going to walk into court with my head held high before I get dragged off to jail. I'm not going to cuck or cower because that's a spiritual loss. You can do what you want to my body. You can put me in jail, but you won't break my spirit. A spiritual victory is enough for me. I know I'm innocent. I know I've done nothing wrong. I know I tell the truth. I know I help people. I'm not going to back down or cower or give up. And Trump knows he's innocent too. And sometimes in these scenarios where you don't stand a chance, technically, legally, when you're dealing with apparatus of man, which has been rigged against you because humans are imperfect, all you can do is look to God and understand the truth of your heart, the truth of your soul, and aim for a spiritual victory. And you have a spiritual victory of a man, as a man, by having your head held high. If they were about to shoot me in the head by a firing squad, I would go down with my head held high with a smile on my face. I'm not gonna fucking cry. You're gonna shoot me anyway. You're going to shoot me anyway. So they're going to do what they're going to do to me, and they're going to do what they do to Trump anyway. The best thing we can do is act like men, because that pleases God. And you know what's funny? What's funny about the world is if you please God, if you act with honor and integrity and you do the right thing, and God likes you, it's amazing how favored you become. Some people will call it lucky. I don't call it that. I call it favored. When you act the right way, it's amazing what God will give you. And almost sometimes in impossible odds, you manage to pull it off. And people go, how did they do that? Because you made God happy.
I want you to submit to me your vision for your dream life. Every time I ask somebody what their dream life is, they give a very lazy, sloppy answer. Well, I want to be rich. How rich? What does rich mean? How much money? Is it in liquid cash? Is it in stocks? Is it in crypto? In which country is it held? How do you diversify to protect yourself against matrix attacks? Who's your accountant? What's the name of the banks your money's held in? What are you going to buy? For you to become rich and successful is going to require pain and suffering. And you have to understand exactly what your dream life is to make the pain and suffering worthwhile. Think about it. Have you ever been to the gym and seen a person in fantastic physical condition? They're strong, they're ripped, they're large. And you say to them, how did you get so big and strong? And they say, I don't know. Oops, it kind of just happened. Or have you ever found a really rich man or a very successful man and said, how did you become rich and successful? And he goes, I don't know, bro. I just woke up one day and it kind of happened and now I'm living my dream life. No, there is a very detailed plan and roadmap. For you to become strong, you must eat a certain way. You must train a certain way. For you to become rich, you must earn money a certain way. You must understand exactly how you're going to make money, whether you're going to be a public-facing figure like me or a man of the shadows with millions of dollars. Unknown, but extremely powerful. You have to design your dream life. What house are you going to live in? Who's your woman going to be? Is she blonde? Is she brunette? What car are you going to drive? Have you even gone on the internet and spec'd your car? You can design your dream car right now for free on the internet, and you can choose the color. You can choose the wheels. You can choose the carbon. Is it a Lamborghini? Is it a Ferrari? Is it a McLaren? How much does it cost to the dollar? You talk about your dream life. You don't even know what your dream life is. How do you expect to get to a destination when you don't know where you're going? Do you understand? I designed my dream life long ago, before I was known, before I had anything. And I worked very hard with a very concise, very detailed plan to ensure I ended up exactly where I wanted to be. And you're not going to end up where you want to be if you don't know where it is. So, for that reason, I want you to submit to me your dream life. I want you to be as detailed as possible. Do you have children? What house you're in? What your woman looks like? What's her personality like? Where did you meet her? What kind of person is she? What car do you drive? Who are your friends? Who are your network? What kind of men are you hanging around with? How are you making money? Are you known? Are you not known? What is your ideal job? How much money do you want to make a month? How much money do you have saved? You have to understand exactly what your dream life is. This is more than just an exercise in understanding how to become a successful person. This is an exercise in life. Without diligent planning, without concise, compendious plans, the chance of you achieving nearly anything is zero.
God is watching all of these things. And these people who think they can just throw people in jail on some garbage are going to see that there is a karmic retribution in the universe and that the truth is on our side. And I know exactly how Trump feels. Trump is waking up frustrated, angry, but he sees himself serving a purpose higher than these orchestrated, pretend Shakespearean plays, these corrupt systems of man. And he says, you know what? I'm going to walk in there, and the only person I'm interested in pleasing is God. I'm going to walk in there like a man.